Previously on Chaser.
I need to get to Mars. I have to find a guy there, name of Stone. He's the key to my memories. I'll be able to find out who I am.
Take him to Fiorentina.
Yes, sir. Where am I?
Chaser, finally! I was beginning to think you weren't going to wake up. I had a roommate like that before.
Where am I? How do you know my name?
How can I not recognize your face? You're my teammate, I'm still...
Jay?
That's me. Oh, we've been in some tight spots together, you and me. Don't you remember me?
Not fully. I can recall your name, but the rest is fog.
What did the bastards do to you? Did they break you, Chaser? Have they found out who you are?
No. They locked me up at the airport for rioting.
Thank God. If they found out you were one of the main rebels, there's no way you'd have got out of there so easily. Your memory will return, don't worry. I've gone through an interrogation like that before. He remembered it.
Yes, that thing with Fiorentina is a good move. Let's see how this thing develops.
Where are we?
You're on Industrial Colony 43. After the mining was stopped 20 years ago, they closed everything except for the foundry. The rest was reconstructed into a prison. This is the terminal station with all the inconveniences. But you already know about all this.
Sure, but I didn't ever expect to wind up here.
It doesn't have to be for a long time. I personally plan to stay for the shortest time possible.
Are you crazy? This cell is monitored for sure. And you start talking about escaping?
Hey, keep cool, old chap. The only camera they got in here is an old Parsons, and it has no audio.
Oh, well then. Seems you know all about it.
Unlike you, I allowed myself to be caught. I'm here for the third time, always for a small transgression, just for a couple of weeks. These visits were enough time for me to orient myself and find a terminal so that we can connect to the company's main computer. My task is to download as much data from it as possible, especially Longwood's itinerary for this week.
What's your plan?
My plan is actually active. The shit you're breathing right now is the direct proof. It comes from the foundry where the prisoners work. I broke the air cleaning system.
And small pollutants screwed up most of the cameras and sensors in the foundry. So the security system is practically useless. Which means they've had to move all the guards there. Quite a good plan, Jay. Simple and efficient.
Thanks. And in addition to my previous visits, this time I brought the required hardware. Weapons and keys.
Even better. I'm your man.
Now, Chaser, I'm your man. Until the very moment they brought you here, I didn't believe this plan would work. Now I know it will. Listen to me. When we get out of this cell, we must be absolutely quiet or the escape will be over. Keep to the wall so they don't spot you, and stay in my sight so you won't get lost. We don't have any room for mistakes.
Okay, let's do it and get out of here.
Hello and welcome back. Let's take a look at these dwellings, shall we? Over here we've got Cauldron Rules. We've got Die Bitch. Mars sucks, as we'll definitely find out. And Maid was here, again one of the developers. And also, the camera which was looking at us during the cutscene is gone. Well anyway, let's carry on.
Who's there?
Oh, my eyes! You're going to be seeing a lot of that, so if that's particularly bright for you, you might want to turn the brightness down on your monitor. As Jay suggested in the cutscene, he's managed to fuck up the air filtration somehow, and so everything's kind of covered in fog. Can't really see very far ahead of us, which kind of helps, because whenever we do get a weapon, which is going to be a little while from now unfortunately, it's going to be one of the crappy machine guns, so we're not really going to be able to do too much damage at a distance, so it kind of works out. Now if you decide to stray from where Jay is leading you, and pretty much at every turn you will find at least a duo of guards just facing you, waiting to kill you, so you kind of have to trail along behind them at every step of the way. Of course, when you do find yourself in command of a weapon, you're a lot freer to roam about and take out any opposition that you find. Fortunately, Jay is programmed to just run off on his own anyway, so it's probably best if you do stick with him. If you don't, you'll probably get lost, and I do that at least once.
Close the panel behind you.
Asshole! So we've been separated from Jay, and it's up to us to find our way around. That's not quite as bad as it might sound. We've basically just got a single linear vent in front of us to make our way through, and I'm just going to speed that up because it is pretty monotonous. Our first stopping point gives us a little bit of a look at the filtration system, at least that's what it appears to be. Above us we've got a fan which isn't circulating, which could very well be down to Jay, and the one below it is, and it appears to be that all other ways, at least on this level, are blocked off, so we're going to have to drop down through that fan. Coming up ahead of us around this corner is something a little bit strange. We've got an opening and what appears to be a drop of death below it, but we actually have to jump off that. We have to kind of take a leap of faith. If the fogging wasn't quite so bad, we'd be able to see that we've got this fan below us. We could probably infer that we have to jump and float our way down, as you can see that we do. But given that we can't see that far, it seems like a very odd thing. In fact, I actually just walked straight off the edge without meaning to, so we didn't get the chance to explore and find out that there was in fact no other way to go. And after that brief interlude, we're back once again with the Renegade Master. This time he's got himself a weapon, so we're at least not going to find ourselves in too much trouble if we bump into some enemies. Hopefully we'll be able to get one of our own pretty soon. Jay himself doesn't actually mention that we've been missing. I'd be surprised if he even noticed, but we're back to our old tactics again of just following him around, and there's really not much more else we can do. Something that's not readily apparent and something that's actually very difficult to catch is that there are guards above us and pretty much all around us at all times, and they are working through little routines, so it is fairly intricate and well planned out, but because it's so foggy and because of where we're standing, we just don't see them.
Wait a second.
Need help! Freeze!
Well, now we finally got ourselves a weapon and things are pretty much back on track. We just have to kill everything that we find. They're going to be standing in our way a lot more readily now. We have to keep Jay alive, and obviously ourselves, and get him to his final destination. Of course we have to make sure, like I said before, that we don't lose him, or we'll be wandering around lost for a little while. And just sometimes, as we see now, Jay will just stop and not move at all. That's basically for the same reason that Piotr wouldn't move. We've got some enemies in front of us and we have to go ahead and clear them out first. So we just go and do that, and then eventually Jay will catch up with us. At this point, Jay just simply stopped at this crossroad, and I wasn't entirely sure which way we were supposed to be going, so I kind of had to poke around in this one, and as it turned out it was the wrong way because he's buggered off up the stairs. More often than not though, it'll be all my fault. Jay will definitely be walking off in one direction and I'll stop to explore. Thankfully, in situations such as this one, Jay can actually take care of himself, so it's not all that bad. It's only in situations where he's actually surrounded by enemies that we're in trouble, but that won't be happening for a little while.
Stop him!
Okay, we are on the move once again. We've got a health pack here, but I don't really need it right now. So I'll just fall back and meet up with Jay. And we'll find ourselves pretty soon to be in the middle of a cutscene. Once Jay gets a move on.
We're here, the main computer. Once I start playing with it, they'll realize where we are. You'll have to keep them outside. Here, take my gun.
This bit is pretty straightforward. We basically just have to kill everything that's outside the doors. Of course, we've got these little laser barriers that stop the enemies from getting in, which seems a little bit silly. The only doorway that we have to actually worry about is the one on the right hand side, because that's the only one where they can shoot at Jay from. Other than that, we really could just be very lazy about this, but we might as well kill everyone, because we're going to have to kill them anyway. Ah, it's my evil twin!
I can't open it from here.
Problem?
Yeah, I tried to open the cells and release the prisoners, but it's no go. We have to somehow keep the guards busy, otherwise they'll be after us and we'll have a high old time. Run down and try to open the cells from the terminals in the prison block. I'll wait for you here. And hurry!
It'll take a second or two for the gates to drop, but eventually they will, so we'll just try and clear out as many people as we can before then. It's really just a case of mopping up everyone before we move on. They stop spawning at this point, but we better just make sure they're all killed, otherwise they'll cause us some trouble. What the hell? A flight of stairs that I don't really notice where a guy's just kind of hanging out and firing at me. I'm expecting them all to be at eye level, so I'm just running around getting shot and trying to figure out where he is. But it gives us time to pick up plenty of ammo and health, and well, we'll just go back and have a look at the room we were just in. The room itself is stocked with plenty of armor and health, but we generally didn't really need it during that firefight. But it comes in pretty handy. We'll be making our way back here at some point, and it could prove to be useful then, so we might as well just not use it all up now. Before we go any further, we're going to stop and have a look at some of these monitors. First up, we've got some of the shots from the CCTV monitors. These two seem to be taken directly as screenshots from a level editor because there's no lighting or any shadow mapping or anything of any kind. And of these three, I think only the one at the bottom actually shows up in either this level or the upcoming ones. The other two I don't think I've ever seen before at all. In the center of the monitors we have some kind of late 90s or 2000s Unix variety of GUI system. Looks to me like IRIX. In the middle where the black background and the white text appears to be the scripting language for Chaser. However, it's got some sort of nesting stuff going on which the example scripting stuff that the game uses doesn't have. And at the top right we've got what I assume is just a wireframe top view of this particular level, and it just moves around in a little box. And in probably the ultimate in self-reference, we've got what appears to be the blog of whoever made this particular level, or at least designed the graphics for this part of the level anyway. We've got just basically a bunch of entries. The top and the bottom one are actually the same, and they date from the year 2000, and except for the one at the top, which is 2001, where he announces that he is now part of the development level design team of Cauldron, working on a brand new game called Chaser. The other image is unfortunately a little too low res to figure out what it's saying, but it appears to be just some kind of thread and some responses at the bottom. And finally, the image at the top right is a little spinning logo that says Cauldron Monitoring. At least it shows who developed this whole monitoring station. Right, let's move on to the next thing. What we have to do now is to find the prison blocks and release all the prisoners. That way we can create ourselves a nice distraction so that Jay and I can get out relatively unnoticed. And of course the first thing you should do is not take the wrong turning. I'm just going to speed this bit up because I end up wandering all the way back to where I first got a weapon. Okay, now we're back on track again. Right, basically what we have to do now is just kill everyone in our way. It's really a case of just following and exploring every area and seeing where it takes us. The fog kind of makes things a little bit confusing because obviously you'll encounter an area and you'll think it was one you've been to before and everything gets a bit annoying. But eventually you'll get to where you need to be. It's going to take a little while, sadly. While obviously not the most visually arresting level there is, in fact it's probably an indication of just how drab and uninspired the Mars levels can end up being, we actually end up being in quite a reasonable, difficult firefight from this point onwards. It's practically constant. Pretty much every corner has an enemy or two there to kill, which at least alleviates some of the boredom that otherwise you might find. If you ever end up running into a point where you've killed everyone and you get lost and backtrack and stuff, then that's where the boredom really kicks in because you're just looking at fog and there's nothing to do. But if you play it right and hopefully you get lucky, then you'll just have plenty of things to kill and it won't be all that bad. One thing about this area is that it isn't really a prison, even though we're actually in cells of sorts. It's just really a jail, which I guess you're putting us in before we do any real kind of sentencing and stuff like that. It's hard to tell what the actual judicial system on Mars is like, but it's obviously not something that's akin to what you would say Earth is like. It should be obvious that the state of play of things on Mars isn't exactly all that great. It very much reminds me of how things were in Total Recall, in that you had basically one corporation kind of running everything with a private security force. That pretty much seems to be the way things are. There's no real sense of proper government actually handling everything, and at least none that doesn't like to do it with an iron fist. Speaking, the alarm itself hasn't really been raised yet. We're not in any sort of major situation. It's really just a minor jailbreak of anything. It's at this point where we turn things into something major, and before we do that we're actually going to run into a new enemy type, and he's going to give us a new weapon that we've actually seen before.
Stop!
This is the beefed up version of the Commandos, and it's someone that we're going to be seeing pretty much from now on. They dropped the weapon that we got at the very start of the game, so we've got ourselves a scoped weapon which is going to come in very handy. Out the window there is the sign for Silence, Discipline, Remorse, and that's going to be in view for all the prisoners who are just directly opposite from us. A little tap on the keyboard here will release all the prisoners and they'll make their own way out. And if you're a particular jerk, you can shoot them all in the back. Takes a couple of shots, but they do die.
Drop your weapon!
just have to repeat the process another 2 times and then we can make our way back to J. It's a little bit of a trek to get there, so I will just speed that bit up. Stop here just to have this firefight and then carry on.
On the right!
And we're back, and Jay has gone. Right, here's the message that he's left us, just to see if any delay in actually reading the damn thing. Why they had to make it scrolling, I don't know, because you always come in the middle of it. And that means we can move on through this doorway. And that takes us to the start of the next part of this level. One down, 2 to go. For this part, we basically gotten away from all the cells, and now we've got a pitched battle where we have to get to, well, basically out of the prison. Along the way, we're going to have a lot of fights, not only with the guards, but with the prisoners themselves. Sometimes they won't shoot us, but most of the time, unfortunately, they will.
Drop your weapon!
Tell that we're very close to the surface because the wind is very noisily blowing through. It is a little bit unnecessarily noisy, and whenever we actually do get outside there's almost no wind whatsoever, so it's a bit strange.
Fire! Who's there?
Coming up ahead of us is one of a few examples of the prisoners fighting with the guards. We can just leave them to fight between themselves and, well, basically pick off whoever's left. If we decide to join in the middle of it, we generally won't have them both fighting us. They'll still continue to shoot each other. We'll end up just helping one side more than the other. Seems to be about as far as we can go. However, we've got a little access port here and we can drop down and crawl underneath some of these walkways. We're unlucky enough, sometimes the fight above us will finish and the winning side will automatically notice that we're underneath the grating and start shooting at us, so it's probably best to just move on as quickly as you can. An explosion above us has destroyed some of the grating, so we can't get through this way. We're going to have to find another way around. Move further into the interior again, so things are a little bit quieter. I'm not exactly sure what this shaft is. I think it's a ventilation shaft of some kind. There's no direct way to access it. However, there's a ladder up the side which we'll use to see if we can find our way through. Oh, sorry guy. This is one of the few times when the prisoners won't shoot at you, and unfortunately I've just gone and shot one of them in the face. Luckily his friend doesn't seem to care too much. There's no way out of here. Looks like we're not done climbing yet. Oh, that was close. This is, as you might imagine, not the safest thing to do. problem I've got here is that walking along this one particular length of metal, you've got the cross-hatching bits that go across it, and those are stopping me, so I have to jump over them. And in the process of jumping, it also pushes me left or right, so I have to be very careful and kind of align myself in midair again. And at that point I got stuck, and I decided that yes, I'll try and jump off, and I ended up jumping to my doom. And things go significantly easier this time. It's just 2 jumps and I'm pretty much there. It's really difficult obviously to figure out where the hell you're supposed to go when you've only got tiny little bits of metal, but unfortunately that's kind of the problem when you've built the geometry like that. Most games will actually put in something where you'll have an invisible, quite large dummy box of geometry that you'll actually stand on and interact with, while visually you'll be looking at little thin bits of metal and stuff like that. But in this particular case, the game actually relies on the physical geometry that's being created, so you do end up having to walk on those little bits of metal. At this point the sentry gun makes its Martian debut, and we've got quite a lot of them to destroy. Luckily I know exactly where they are, so I can more or less take them out before they become a real threat. The main issue we're going to have is making our way down this kind of spiral building, and we're going to have a lot of men to fight on the way down, so let's just get cracking and do that. Still not entirely certain whether or not the sentry guns actually target the prisoners. I've seen a couple of instances where it would appear to be that way, but it's difficult to know whether or not that's the case, or the sentry guns can just see me and are being triggered by me. Cleared out, we can move out a lot more safely. The sentry guns, again, are one of the most difficult enemies in the actual game, and you really don't want to be caught short by them because they will absolutely rape your shit if you let them. Part of the level is quite an endurance. You really aren't doing anything special. You're just going down the spiral and destroying the encounters as you come across them. It doesn't really have anything spectacular, but it does at least give the impression that the level itself has at least something going on. It's not just you wandering around and everyone's chasing after you. You're just kind of trying to get your way out, and you're just coming across all of these pitch battles. It generally works quite well. It's just a pity that the level itself is very samey, and it's just the same old metal corridors and things, and it's unfortunate, but at least with all of the events and things that are happening around you, it's not as bad as it could have been. But thankfully we've got all of this stuff going on, and it's not really all that bad. We just have to kind of push our way through, and eventually we'll be fine. Sentries to go, and then we can be pretty much safe from those. We're almost at the bottom, so there's just a few more turns to take, and eventually we'll be able to get out of here, and things finally will get a lot quieter. honestly think that someone made a mistake with the volume on this level. It's just abusively loud, to the point where any background music that might be playing is completely obscured, and it's to the extent where I've had to reduce the volume of this entire level just so it wouldn't be too annoying. There, the ground floor is just one more floor below us.
I can see.
Some jerk is firing grenades or something like that. Fortunately, we don't actually manage to find that weapon. I have no idea where this guy went. He was there and he was firing at us, but then he, for some reason, decided to just run away, and we don't encounter him again.
Don't let him go. Don't let him get away.
Very much the worse for wear when it comes to health, but luckily we don't have any more enemies to fight. We've just got a little bit more of poking around here, and then it's on to the next part of this level. This busted bit of grating here is the bit that was blocking us when we were trying to get past underneath it, so now we can drop down on the opposite side of the obstruction and carry on the way we were going. 2 down, 1 to go, and this one's pretty straightforward as well. It's just basically follow the pathways and get to the end. Well, more or less anyway. Quick glimpse off to the side and we'll see that we've got a lot of fog. Well, you're just gonna have to get used to that because pretty much all of the outdoor areas are exactly like this.
Who's there?
We're going to be meeting a lot more of these bulkier commandos, along with another particular enemy which we haven't seen yet. Signs of the prison escape is still raging on around us, and things continue to get more explosive as we carry on. Here I'm doing something that's kind of caught my eye a few times, but I've never actually explored. We're supposed to be carrying along the walkway, and that takes us where we need to go, but I saw this kind of sloped area and wondered, might it be possible to climb up above the level? And it turns out that you can, and you can go quite a distance, and I'd just like to show you some of that now. If you were carrying along the walkway normally, there'd be another walkway raised up to your right, which you can see this guy is hanging around on. Basically, you're not supposed to get up there, but it's to populate the area with some guys that you can't directly get to, who could fire at you. This time, however, we can get up there, so we can have a little bit of an explore. Obviously, it's filled with sights you're not supposed to see. We've got bits of platform and things that just end abruptly, but that's fine. We're not supposed to be here, so we should expect things like this. Really, I'm surprised that the way that we got up wasn't blocked off in some way, because really, that's just a very silly mistake to have made. And it's not even the only one in this level. There's another one or two just dotted around here and there if you look hard enough. I've decided that I pushed my luck far enough, and rather than push ahead and get myself in some sort of scripting trouble that I can't get out of, I'm just going to fall back to where we got up and climb back down again. There were a lot of encounters and enemy spawns and things that weren't triggered simply because we weren't walking along the walkway as we should have been. So we'll go ahead and do that, and I'll be able to show you the level as it was supposed to be.
Look out! He's dangerous.
Bat, things aren't going so well for us, but from this level onwards, pretty much a common occurrence is that these crates are usually open on one side, and you sometimes have to search for them, and we'll have little bits and pieces of health or armor that we can pick up and make use of.
Wait! He's here! Go ahead!
Catches my eye for the first time is this little pipe here. As we kill this guy, we take a jump in and see how far it takes us. It's not very far, and you can see it quite abruptly ends, but still, it's another little nook which we really shouldn't be able to get to. You may have noticed, or probably have just forgotten about, is that the guys in red that we're fighting are they're wearing the same uniforms as the guys who attacked Majestic in the very first level. Are they the same guys? Well, it seems a little odd that the guards of a prison should be attacking a spacecraft, but well, I guess we'll see what happens with that. During the initial cutscene, this place used to be a mining facility, and one thing you'll find in this area and across all of Mars is that any facility is fucking huge. You've got walkways across seemingly a bottomless pit. It beggars belief just how big the scope of this particular level is, and some of the future ones as well. I find it hard to believe that in the next 35 years something of this magnitude will be built on Earth, let alone on Mars, but here it is, and it's kind of something that I particularly like about Chaser. Everything's just fucking huge on Mars. Once again, we're not doing very well in health. Luckily, just up ahead we've got one of the regularly placed health kits, so it's not going to be too bad. We'll also get to see an absolutely gigantic fan. Look at the size of that thing. There's a new enemy we haven't seen before, and it's actually the only level that we ever see this enemy. It doesn't come up at any point in the game after this. From what I can tell, it's just a guy in a jetpack with a jetpack with Gatling guns. So what more can you say? They're not particularly common. We don't really see them all that much. We actually see them more as just things doing flybys rather than actually attacking us. Calling it an air sector, I think it's supposed to be a landing point for these jetpack guys. Maybe they're actually performing some sort of function when they're not running around shooting at people. This little red triangle of flashing lights I think is where they're supposed to land, or at least be some sort of guiding indicator. haven't seen much in the way of prisoners for the last few minutes, but I think the explosions ahead of us tell us that something serious is definitely going down. It's a little difficult to get a handle on what the level geometry is actually telling us about the area. I think we did actually traverse across some kind of pit, and we've actually made it from one side to the other because we've got some more standing buildings around us that seem to be at least on some sort of cliff wall. And if we carry along this way, we'll probably find our way out. I'm really surprised that I survived this particular section. I've got ganked by enemies on one side, I've got a Gatling gun keeping me pinned to this location, and I've got another Gatling gun directly above me. The future certainly wasn't looking very bright for me. I can definitely hear something mechanical being operated back and forth, but I've absolutely no idea where it's coming from. If I go up this ramp, it seems to trigger it, but doesn't seem to be anything visually happening.
It's dangerous.
Another indication that we're in some kind of pit area is that we've got an elevator here. Fortunately, it doesn't work, so we're gonna have to find another way out. It seems the guards are starting to take more drastic measures to keep the prisoners in place. Now what the hell do I do? Okay, back we go. That figure in the distance, that is an exoskeleton, and we're going to be seeing more of that later. Luckily a little secondary explosion has given us a way out, so let's jump up in this railing and bugger off. I get the feeling we don't want to be around here for much longer. I don't think we're going to be able to go much further down this. I don't want to risk going down that slope. As I'd said earlier on, things are visually pretty bland, but given all these explosions and things falling around our ears, I think it's fairly exciting, at least in my opinion.
In front of you.
This entranceway leads us back inside, and that's the end of the outdoor sections for the rest of the level. In fact, in here we've got ourselves a little kind of barricade which we have to fight our way through, and once we do that we'll be pretty much free to clear our way to the end of the level.
We'll wait for him behind the corner.
Unfortunately, these commando guys press right up against these boxes, so it's difficult to get a shot at them. You really do have to position yourself so you can just kind of see them and shoot them in the arm and in the leg. It's not particularly exciting, but it's kind of needs-must situation. I think the level designer intended you to actually jump over the railing onto the ground floor below. That way you could climb up a flight of steps and look behind these guys and kill them all. But with a little bit of crouch jumping we can make our way over the boxes but for the sake of things I'll look below anyway. Yep, it's pretty empty. It would have been a fairly easy fight to get our way up here. At least it would have been maybe a little bit less bland than shooting from behind some boxes. But anyway, we're done, so let's head back up to that elevator we saw. I like to think there was a guy under the lift and we just killed him, but we probably didn't. Anyway, once we get to the top, that's the end of the level, so I will see you next time. After this end of level cutscene, there's a little bit extra to see, so pay attention for that.
The reinforcements are on the way. I can see it.
It seems I was right. Without you, the plan wouldn't have worked.
We're still not out of here.
Next time on Chaser.